9 story of the year, the number 9 local story of the year, is the passing of Dom DiMaggio, Red Sox great and South Coast resident Dom DiMaggio.
Longtime South Coast resident.
Yes, he passed away in early May at the age of 92. And I know, Cooch, you had the chance to discuss baseball with him on a few occasions.
Too rare. One of my greater regrets is Johnny Damon, if you'll remember, I want to say it was the '05 season, made a run at Dom DiMaggio's hitting streak record, which he holds for the franchise. I believe it's 30. Damon got to 30. DiMaggio's is 32 or 33.
34.
34. And I was waiting. I wanted him to get a little bit closer before I called Dom to really get his take on it because he was getting up there in years at that point. And I didn't want to bother him, but I just wanted to, see if we could really make the story more relevant. And the streak broke, and I didn't get to talk to him. And he was just everyone you talked to in Marion. He was just the most down-to-earth guy that you could imagine, especially given, all he had accomplished, all he had done there. He had a beautiful home at the end of Point Road that he lived on with his wife Emily by Catanzit. But you hear all these stories from people about how he would come into the local restaurants, they could talk baseball, he'd sign anything that anybody wanted to sign. It was not, he loved Marion and Marion loved him back, and it's never obviously happy when anybody dies, but he lived just such a rich, full life that it's, you almost forget, locally that he was a great player. He might have been the best center fielder that the Red Sox ever had. He made 7 All-Star teams. Like most of the players of that era, he didn't get to play during the war years, and there's some talk that if he had gotten those extra years, maybe we're putting him in a Hall of Fame discussion. But, the Red Sox remember him. They named the flagpole after him after he died. They had a ceremony at the park. His wife threw out the first ball, and it was just nice to know that there was that connection to the team's lore here in South Coast.
And he did make the Red Sox Hall of Fame in 1995, and well-deserved. I met him on one occasion when I was dining at one of those restaurants, and it was when I was doing the restaurant reviews for the paper here, and he walks in with his wife, and he sat down. I believe she came in first, and then he came in a few minutes afterwards, and the waitress came over and explained to us, that's Dom DiMaggio. And so I said, well, if I get a chance, I'll go over and say hi. And by the time I tried to get up and go over there and introduce myself to him, he'd already made his way over to the bar and was just regaling everyone with stories. And so I just hung back and listened for a little while, and then I figured it was probably best if I just moved on. But I was glad that I at least got those few minutes to sit back and listen to one of the greats talk about baseball. I mean, a little bit overshadowed, you could say, by playing next to Ted Williams and by being the brother of Joe DiMaggio.
Youngest brother of the DiMaggio clan.
But he definitely forged himself a name in Red Sox country and here in the South Coast, and he will be missed.
He was incredibly intelligent, and he was an incredible businessman. His career, I believe, ended around the time that he was 35. The Sox went to Jimmy Pearsall, and DiMaggio was out of a job, and he didn't really want to sit at the bench, so he just retired. And he went into business, and he was incredibly savvy. I mean, the money that he earned after he left the game, he lived a very rich life, a very full life, that a lot of the players of that era didn't get the chance to because they either weren't smart with their money or they trusted the wrong people.
There's two misconceptions about Dom, at least in the people I've discussed him with. One is that the nickname "The Little Professor" was based just on the fact that he had glasses and he was, slight of stature. But he was, like you said, very intelligent. And they also think that the money that he did have came from playing baseball. And a lot of it was from, like you said, his business endeavors. So it's a little bit of a success story on both ends, not just the baseball player, but also, the businessman who gave back so much to the community.
My favorite story that I remember hearing after he died, and I might mangle this a little, but he had a contract negotiation with Tom Yawkey right around the period of the war, and he had asked for a raise, and Yawkey didn't want to give it to him, and they went back and forth, and he may have held out, he may not have held out, but they finally came to an agreement, and DiMaggio basically got Yawkey to agree to, all right, we'll settle on this money for now, but the next season, based on what the team's attendance is, I would like, an increase in pay based on if the team adds a certain number of fans to the seats. And DiMaggio understood, and Yawkey either didn't pick up on or let him get away with this, that after the war was over, there was going to be a significant return to the fans to the game because all the great players would be back. So the attendance figures went way up the next year, and DiMaggio ended up getting all the money that he wanted and then some. And Yawkey was generally very gracious to his players when it came to giving, extra cash if they needed it. But it appears as though he snookered the longtime Sox owner, and he ended up continuing to show that sort of business acumen for the rest of his life.
That's a great story.